Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 205 here on October 29th, 2025. Happy Halloween to everyone this week. I'm Nicole, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, where the weather's been pretty spooky this week, all rainy and gray. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazelli. Gus, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Has been like a very soggy week. A lot of rain. I got, of course, Game Five of the World Series in one screen, and in the other, I have Racing and Flamengo second game of the Libertadores Semi-finals. Still 0-0. Flamengo won last week 1-0 at home. So pretty much big implications tonight. Definitely. I mean, was 2 days ago the sports equinox in America.
Oh, absolutely. Also, before we really get into it, I do want to dedicate this episode to the fine people of Jamaica. Obviously, they are grilling after the strike of Hurricane Melissa, Category 5. If you can find a legitimate way to help them, definitely look for it because they're in need of our help. But I know they're strong people and they're going to bounce back from yesterday's storm. But in any other case, let's get right into it here, guys, because as you've mentioned, sports equinox, every sport is ongoing at the same time. Of course, NBA, NHL has just started. Football, we're in the middle of the season here. And we have the World Series, which right now is in the bottom of the fifth inning. The Toronto Blue Jays are up 3-1 in the series, tied 2-2. A lot is riding on tonight's game. We have a Savage versus Kike Hernandez, who has Los Angeles' only run tonight with a solo shot back, I believe it was in the third inning when that occurred. And of course, it's been a wild series because Toronto came out and blasted LA in game one. The Dodgers returned the favor in game two. Then we had an epic 18-inning game on Monday night. Full disclosure, definitely did not make it into that game. I mean, that game was lasted until 3 a.m. Eastern time when
4
LA,
a.m. here in Brazil.
yeah, with Freddie Freeman with another walk off. Of course, second straight year he's had a walk off in the World Series.
And and let's acknowledge how clutch Freddie has been in the 21st century baseball. Not only for the Dodgers, for the Braves as well. He is definitely going to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's one of the best players of this century. I mean, what he did with the Braves, getting a championship here, getting a championship in LA. I mean, he has had basically the perfect career. I mean, you can't be much happier than with a career than what you have with Freddie Freeman. And plus, he's universally beloved. You don't find that many people who have that many bad things to say about the guy. And no matter what happens in this series, right? Like this, he's doing great.
Yeah, and I believe was the same guy sings the national anthem twice. For games went to 18 innings. Did you know that?
I know, like it's freaking nuts. Like you just don't see games go that far. I know the record for professional game is 33 innings, which was back in the 80s with a minor league game. Could you imagine if a World Series game, a game went so long, it was so long when we all woke up the next morning for work.
Brad, Brad, if Brad Paisley sings the national anthem on a World Series game, you can expect going to 18 innings.
Oh, 100%. You know, he just seems to have that sauce.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at the rest of this series here, guys. So we have Toronto right now has the upper edge, but we still got a long way to go in this game. We know what LA roster has. Do you think Toronto can hang on here? And from here, what will be as the series shifts back to Toronto for at least a game six, if not a game seven? Where does the rest of the series go?
I mean, if Toronto close this game up, they are going to be a hand and a half in the Commissioner's Trophy because, there's pretty much is an even series. And unless LA can find some magic tonight, things are very much going in the Blue Jays direction.
That's what it feels like because definitely Otani's already pitched during Game 4. Maybe you can have him back for a Game 7, which I feel like no matter what's going to a Game 7 as Otani himself right now is on deck. So I mean, I'm not counting the Dodgers out until the series is over. But definitely, these Blue Jays certainly have a fight to them that the Yankees didn't have, and a more well-rounded roster compared to what the Yankees had last year. It's the reason why the Blue Jays absolutely routed the Yankees this year on their way to this World Series and being able to withstand the Seattle Mariners. And I mean, it's very telling. Just
And, and,
um,
and let me ask you this, Nick. Do you think that LA sweeping the Brewers kind of took the edge off, and we talked about this before on this podcast, because baseball is a lot about momentum. Do you think the Blue Jays going up until Game 7 with the Mariners kind of carried this momentum to the World Series?
that's what it feels like. It just feels like that you cannot. Um, yeah, it just feels like you cannot
Take
take
a
that
break.
much time off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very. I feel like it's different. For example, from football. Football, if you have the bye week, it makes a difference because it's a more physical sport. It's more like contact sport. Since baseball is more about mechanics, about feelings, about emotions, than brutality. Uh, Being more on play, going up till the Game 7, or not having the bye game or
Yeah.
bye series can make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it makes such a critical, massive difference. And for the Blue Jays, it definitely has given them a wind at their sails. And I don't know how this thing's going to play out, Gus. I mean, it feels like, I still feel like the Dodgers are the better team, but sometimes baseball is about that, as you said, about the hot hand here, and the Blue Jays feel like they have the hot hand. I can't hear you guys.
But they're even tonight, and until the 9 inning or maybe extra innings are over, we'll see where the series kind of shifts to. But definitely, um, um, the Blue Jays definitely want to close this in, because they're gonna close in Canada, because they're gonna be Game 6 and Game 7 in Canada. So they're gonna have twice the opportunity to close at home if they win tonight. So although they're gonna be with comfortable lead, they're gonna be a lot of pressure to close at home.
Yeah, and if they do close, then the thing about this, Toronto will have both an NBA Finals and a World Series in the last decade, leaving only the Maple Leafs. And I guess FC,
Oh,
I guess.
I guess I guess uh, the Blue Jays and the Raptors are making up with all the frustration that Toronto Maple Leafs gave to Toronto sports fans, because it's a petty. And shout out to Thais Payão, the best dentist in the world. Say hi, guys. Appreciate it.
Hello, hello.
My dad also, João Antonio Tomazelli, watching in beautiful Kentucky. They say, what are news
We got
for
a big
Ken?
dub in Kentucky this past weekend.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk something that happened in Lexington, Kentucky. What a dominant performance that happened for an orange team
Hey,
down in
it's
Kentucky.
hey, you know what it is in Kentucky, Gus? It's basketball season.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess they move really quick from one sport to the other.
Yeah, in Tennessee, it's both football and basketball season still.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. But in any case, I guess my feeling is that I think at this point, I feel like Toronto's going to find a way because I initially picked LA, but it feels like Toronto's going to find a way to get this World Series.
And you mentioned something that is fair, because the Dodgers has been known for kind of fall apart or not being able to close in those big moments, and their only exception twice, 2020, but we didn't count. You like to call the Mickey Mouse World Series. That there were no home field advantage, and last year they faced the Yankees, which you mentioned perfectly. They don't have the energy, the stamina, the kind of of these roster, because I think the big difference is Toronto Blue Jays build this roster. The Yankees bought it, and I feel like in this DNA of baseball is, I know the Dodgers kind of show it, oh, that we can buy but they buy the top of the line. But when you build a roster really good like that, you can face, and Toronto Blue Jays winning the World Series is good for baseball. It shows that money doesn't necessarily automatically buy you championships.
Right, and then you had the Braves prove this a few years ago, and we lost Ronald Acuna and still won the World Series because of how good that roster was built. Also, Gerald Tomazelli is asking, what do you guys have for Bowling Green, Kentucky? There in South.
Let me see. They're gonna play on Saturday, I believe. Yeah, Saturday at noon. They just lost to Kent State,
Oh
24.
wait, no, Gus. That is Bowling Green, Ohio. So the team in
Oh,
Bowling Green, Kentucky, actually is Western Kentucky. Is in Bowling Green,
oh,
Kentucky. Yeah. So
I, I apologize for my misconception.
yeah. So Western
Yeah.
Kentucky Hilltoppers, they host New Mexico State.
Oh, they're already a bowl eligible. Yeah, they're
Yes.
having.
They actually
They
play a
just
team.
what?
So they play Tennessee's next opponent after this week, New Mexico State.
Well, and
Our
they
home
just
place.
beat Louisiana Tech down in Louisiana, so they're having good seasons so far.
And they do have a
Yes.
pretty good basketball team as well. So um, certainly a team with fun. They do play LSU in a few weeks, who we'll be talking about here shortly.
Oh yeah, that's true. I imagine how Death Valley is gonna be. And my dad been to Death Valley, and I guess the energy then was gonna be much better than the one when they're gonna play Western Kentucky. But back to baseball, yeah, we're still in the top of the six, 3-1 for the Blue Jays. I think they're gonna close up, even though the inning is over. So we're going to the bottom of the six. LA now is gonna hit, but it feels like the Blue Jays are gonna win tonight, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But hey, long way to go. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll touch back on this game as developments occur. What a play by Freddie. What a play by Freddie. I'm just seeing now the end of the. What a great slide. I mean, Freddie's just. I mean, outside of Otani, Freddie's the second best player on that team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's why they went and got a Freddie Freeman. That's why they knew they needed a guy as clutch, as reliant as him.
Yes. Okay. So we'll definitely be keeping tabs on the rest of the World Series there. And before we get into college football, I do want to touch upon the controversy that has engulfed the NBA, the gambling scandal that's engulfed Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and others. Basically, the long story short here is you had a wide scale FBI investigation related to illegal gambling on games, rigged poker games that had ties to the mafia. And you had and allegedly Chauncey Billups, the Portland Trailblazers coach, the Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and former NBA player Damon Jones are tied to this investigation where effectively they were giving insider information on injuries and other things to effectively rig the outcome of games, rig the outcome of different bets. Like for example, Terry Rozier had a game, I believe a year or two ago, where um, his over under on points was like 10 points for the entire game. And he basically he claimed he had a foot injury like halfway through the first quarter and didn't make it. And coincidentally, there was a lot of bets that came in on him being under, which the sports books flagged as suspicious. So basically, you had stuff like this going on, and now there's basically a talk about just banning prop bets because in addition to having like say like in this game tonight, you could bet on the Dodgers or you could bet on the Blue Jays to win. But let's say you're trying to bet Lakers versus Spurs. Like I could go and bet right now Victor Wembanyama over under like 25 points. And if I knew that like Victor Wembanyama had like I don't know food poisoning, I probably would go and bet on him to go under because he's not going to be at full percent. But the average person should doesn't have access to that information, so it's a very messy situation.
It,
And
it's kind of like here in Brazil, for example, Bruno Henrique, Flamengo player, told his brother, "Hey, I'm gonna get a yellow card in this game because then I'm gonna be suspended the next game, which is unimportant, and then I'm gonna, clean out my yellow cards for the bigger games down the road." And then the brother told other family members to make a bet that Bruno Henrique was gonna get a yellow card. So it's basically kind of like what happened. And there's a discussion here in Brazil as well. In lower divisions, like prop bets kind of already are ruled out because of how much influence gamblers and bookies were having over those competitions. But I get the the concern because yeah, that's true. Like controlling the outcome of a game itself with so many people involved, coaches, players, referees, and umpires is one thing. It's another thing that you can control the outcome of a single player being under or over the score. The score.
yeah, and this is kind of the situation, right, where you have all these sports leagues have put themselves in bed with all these sporting companies. Like you can't watch any sporting game now without advertisements for gambling, for DraftKings or for Fanatics or MGM or whatever. You're getting bombarded by sports betting books every single time you watch the television. Here, obviously in a place like Tennessee where it's legal, there are billboards on the side saying "Sign up for BetTN and get the first $100
And
free."
and there's even a discussion. I imagine in America it's not as big, but in Brazil it's kind of being common on that. Betting kind of like is keeping Brazilian soccer alive. And my dad mentioning Mirassol. Yes, we know about Mirassol. I tell extensively about on this podcast, right, Nick? Yeah. How about
Oh,
the
absolutely.
great campaign? And they did something very noble. They had offers from multiple betting websites, and they turned it down for the main sponsors to keep the same sponsors they've been having for almost 20 years, which is a soda company here in Brazil. It's a local soda nearby the city of Mirassol. But the rest of the teams, they cannot turn it down money from betting websites. They are basically funding Brazilian soccer and Brazilian domination throughout, Libertadores. How you've been following Libertadores, Nick. Like since we started this podcast, there'll be only Brazilian finals. And I imagine in the United States as well, there's this big dilemma because at the end of the day, America is not as reliant as a one income source. There's TV money, there's tickets and suites and a lot of stuff. But the betting money source, the percentage of is gonna keep growing and growing.
Yeah, and of course, there's the whole age-old adage of should this been legalized in the first place? And because like I'll be honest, like for me, right? Like I'm not addicted to gambling. I don't really understand getting addicted to gambling, because I mean I don't like to lose money. Like I'll limit myself like $5 a week on like college football, and that's it. And of course, I know not to expect that money to come back because well, you should never expect to win, but there's some people who put hundreds and thousands of dollars on a single bet, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, why would you bet like your entire paycheck on a result?
But Nick, I had the discussion, but I think at the end of the day, it's good to have legalized gaming because, as you mentioned, who are the ones who flagged the Terry Rozier suspicious activity? Who are the ones? the betting
Sportsbook.
its websites itself. The sports
Right.
books, they're the ones who are most interesting for the game to not be rigged. That's the thing. The more legal gambling you have, the more incentives for the game to not be rigged.
Right. And
If you ask me at the
by
end of the
having
day.
it regularized, then you take it out of the control of the mafia. Because
Yeah,
otherwise, because people are going to gamble, right? Um, but if you make it illegal, then you're just going to have illegal sports books where your winnings are
yeah.
not guaranteed. Like I remember back before they legalized gambling here in Tennessee, I knew people who were like betting on like Bovada and like these shady websites
I
online.
remember we had a fellow member at Roxall Sports. I'm not gonna mention his name, but yeah, I remember he was gambling back what 2018, 2019, and
Oh yeah.
then back then it wasn't legal, right?
Oh no, it was
And
like 2021, I think.
so back in 2018, 2019, we had a fellow member who were betting in the shady website, even on Brazilian soccer. Remember, he asked me one day, "Oh, what do you know about this game and that game?" I was, "Oh my God, do you like Brazilian soccer?" No, I'm betting on it. And I said, "Okay, I thought it wasn't legal, but okay, I try my best. I think
And we don't
I don't know if
snitch. We're not going to snitch.
yeah, no, no,
Uh,
no, 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 yeah. But I'm just, mentioning the situation because, yeah, gambling is always gonna be available, but I'd rather be legal so it can be those money coming back to the sports leagues, the sports teams, and and more legalized gambling again means more control and more prevention of irregularities and those shady activities.
right. And also, increase revenue for gambling addiction treatment. Because apparently there is a subsection of people who just cannot handle it. And we definitely advise you if you are one of those people who cannot handle betting and are bankrupting yourself to please go get help and to not bankrupt yourself because it's not worth it. But, if you can handle it, you can do it responsibly.
Yeah,
But
it's
in
so
any
funny that
case, yeah, go
it's so funny. Like in Brazil, I don't know if you can do that in America with DBT, but with Bolsa Familia, you can gamble that money. So the government, instead of preventing it, is creating a betting website with their own state bank that give the Brazilian EBT money. So basically, you have the same bank that gives social welfare money, creating the betting website money, the sports. It's something that is worries me because this money should be for necessities, food, education, not for gambling.
right. I mean, so basically, there's the SNAP benefits, basically, which are about to
Yeah,
expire here in the U.S. unless the government reopens. I mean, we've done like what 4 podcasts since the government shut down. That's pretty
oh,
crazy.
yeah, I know.
Any case, also, I think the other part of this too is Adam Silver's job in jeopardy because there's a lot of discussion over what did he know, what didn't he know, were they trying to cover up stuff, and additionally how they continue to partner with those betting leagues after this. I know there's a situation on ESPN where they were talking about this incident and they were running an ESPN bet advertisement they immediately pulled during that segment, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's why ESPN is a compromising position because they cannot do like ODT and then afterwards running a commercial for ESPN Bet. Like they cannot be the ones creating a segment about the dangers and issues of sports gambling, and then literally minutes later be like, "Hey, use my platform to sports gambling."
I know the whole thing is just a mess, a complete and absolute
Yeah,
mess. Um, yeah, but Adam Silver certainly, if he didn't know stuff, if he was openly trying to cover up stuff, I feel like at that point the NBA would probably have to think about replacing him. I mean, especially because there's other issues with the NBA, right? Like in terms of its waning popularity in the U.S. being one
yeah.
thing.
that's what I was gonna say. Like, if you want to use this reason, do it. But for me, there's way more other reasons for him to, you know, be canned.
Yeah, because the NBA has lost so much ground to the NFL, at least in America. I know the NBA has grown overseas, but in
In
terms of its
Brazil
relevance,
too, for example, in Brazil too, who would have like when NBA came to Brazil, where they did several games. Even I think first game of LeBron James back to the Cavs was in Brazil. But then now with having games in Sao Paulo and Rio for the NFL, and they keep doing events, at least you're in the playing level, and I wouldn't be surprised years down the road to be even more popular. So the NFL, it's so funny. They're steamrolling the NBA overseas, with games and events. Also, taking. I mean, I love that the NFL said the middle finger to the NBA Christmas tree. It's like we're gonna get that anyway because you are falling apart so bad.
yeah, and also too, it doesn't help when you have players literally citing load management as a reason why they're sitting out on opening night.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. On
I mean,
opening night.
what load management? Like it doesn't make any sense.
And it's so funny, like you don't see the expression load management being talked about in the NFL, in the MLB, in hockey, in the MLS. You don't hear. The only thing you hear this term, National Basketball Association.
Literally, and like yes, you are hitting each other. Basketball is a physical sport, but it ain't like you're getting CTE in basketball. It's
And
really it's cardio, a lot of cardio.
and you talk about physicality. So I guess the players in the '90s needed way more load management than the ones right now. Like, I mean, Michael Jordan had to face Bill Embiid and so many Dennis Rodman and so many ruthless players. Like, who right now is being ruthless in the NBA?
Right. And it really sucks because all this is, overshadowing some of the games, and the games have been pretty entertaining. Like I watched, it was Pacers and Thunder, the rematch, uh, last Thursday of the finals, and that was a great game. Went to double overtime. The Thunder won. Of course, if Jason's watching, he's going to point out how the refereeing was terrible and the officiating was terrible in that game, but still was quite entertaining. But at the same time, you know the actual games. The problem with the biggest problem the NBA has is the actual games always get overshadowed by all the off the field nonsense. Like off the court stuff in the NBA always grabs the headlines, always grabs the attention. And it doesn't matter whether the games themselves are good or inside the NBA on ESPN is good, which it is. It's still the same show. And anything that might be positive for the league, it's always overshadowed by the off-court drama. And this is the only sport where people talk more about what goes on off the field than it goes on. You know?
Yeah, totally, 100%. I mean, that's why they need a new leadership in the league to and be someone tough. Like, of course, David Stern was known to be kind of like not as a dictator, but players reference him as a not an open-minded commissioner. Like, even issuing they had issues even with the dress code getting to the arena. Remember that? So David Stern wants to meddle with everything. I feel like Adam Silver took far to the other side. Like, he wants the players to run the league, and I don't like that idea. I mean, players are important, but they cannot, run the league.
Yeah, they can't. Otherwise, you get nonsense like them gambling and, giving out personal information to gamblers. So certainly the NBA has some work to do to kind of fix their situation. Okay. So let's get into some college football here because I think the biggest story of week 9 was LSU, the Tigers. They were once top 5 this year, guys. You actually, with your family, went and saw them play
Yeah,
Louisiana
and
Tech.
And I fucking knew it watching that game. They were not going to be top 4, top 5 for the rest of the season. I knew it. I mean, the way they performed against Louisiana Tech, nothing against the Bulldogs, but it was atrocious. Like, I was thinking about that game, like, when they're going to face Texas A&M and other top dogs, they're not going to make it.
Yeah. And they've gotten completely exposed. They've lost to Ole Miss, then got embarrassed by Vandy last week, and then came home. They were up at halftime against Texas A&M and got ran out of the building in the second half. Literally, the stadium was empty, and you had Texas A&M fans doing the sawing off the varsity horn, the dun 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 dun, dun. Like they were doing that, and I'm just like, wow, this feels like the end. And then you had the governor, and we were talking more about Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, tweeting at the end of the game, so LSU's about to raise ticket prices. Maybe they should put on a better product. Winky face. And that's just putting gasoline on the fire. And by the end of the next day, basically the way the timeline went is the AD did not wake up Sunday planning to fire Brian Kelly. He wanted him to just fire some assistants. And after that conversation, something happened, I guess, and ultimately led to Brian Kelly getting the boot.
I know what happened. A phone call from Baton Rouge.
Yeah, a phone call from Baton Rouge to Baton Rouge. Jeff Landry drove down the street and told him, hey, have to fire Brian Kelly. Because apparently, I don't know who's in charge of LSU right now, whether it's the athletic director, the president, or the governor of Louisiana. Because it seems like it's just a complete and utter mess. So, like, let's reverse back to Brian Kelly here for a second. Because he was at Notre Dame, took him to a national title, was usually pretty good, but not great. Gets hired by LSU, and I wish I could go back because I think our podcast was already like on the air whenever they hired Brian Kelly.
Oh, yeah, it was.
So, like, I need to go back and look at, like, what our comments were at the time. But I think I said when they hired him something to the effect of, this feels like a really weird fit. He's not from the South. But, LSU has more resources than Notre Dame. He could be really successful there. But I don't know about that fit. And it turns out that just
he was hired on November 30, 2021. So we're basically the start of our podcast.
Yeah, so I feel like, because I'd be curious to see what our takes.
Let me try to find it.
Yeah, because it would have been something to that effect. But I always had concerns about his geographical fit, especially when he started doing the whole "this is my family" like that whole deal at the basketball game and like faking the accents. And then year one happens, and Tennessee goes down there and blows them out in Baton Rouge, and we're like, okay, why is LSU getting ran out of the stadium in Baton Rouge? But then they rescue the season. They upset Alabama. They go to the SEC title game. They're like, okay, LSU could be pretty good. So then they go down to Orlando the next year, play Florida State, get blown out, ran out of the building. And keep in mind, 2023 is when they had Heisman Jaden Daniels. So that offense was spectacular. Problem is they had no defense. They went 9-3. Then the next year, they go out to USC, beginning of the season, lose to what ended up being a very mid USC team, and then ended up not doing much in 2024.
I'm just trying to, if I'm not responding, trying to find the our comments when Brian Kelly arrived at LSU.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So while Gus finds out, I'll just kind of recap kind of how we got here. So for 2024, not much happened, but there's a lot of hype heading into 2025 with Garrett Nussmeier. Hopefully that this is the year that LSU take the next step. And hey, LSU went on the road week 1, beat Clemson. Now, as it turns out, Clemson sucks this year. So it turns out that LSU-Clemson game from week 1 didn't mean anything because both teams aren't very good. And as we have seen this year, LSU's offense is abysmal. It's uncreative, unimaginative. And while LSU's defense has not played terribly, the lack of offensive support has doomed this defense, and now the team kind of let go of the rope. And Texas A&M, who I will just say this, I may have to start taking Texas A&M seriously because I'll be honest, I haven't been taking Texas A&M seriously as an SEC and national title contender, but I think that result on Saturday, what they did, and clearly a national title contender is going to be a lot better than LSU this year. But I think going in there at night and doing that is a sign that A&M should be taken very seriously as a championship contender. So, hey, shout out to the Aggies. Looking at their schedule, they should be 11-0 heading into the Texas game on Black Friday. So, A&M is going to have a very, very good shot of making it to Atlanta and to the playoffs. And I don't know if they can ultimately really win the national title. I think they would beat Ohio State head-to-head? No. I don't think I could even pick them over Indiana. I don't know if I'd pick them over Alabama or Georgia. But Texas A&M clearly deserves to be in the top 5 right now. And they have certainly earned their place there as the lone undefeated team from the SEC.
But yeah, I still haven't found it, but I hopefully will. But in terms of Brian Kelly, I've been, as you mentioned, I've been to a game this season of LSU against Louisiana Tech, and the feeling after the game is that fans were already not as hopeful and not as optimistic, and especially the performance in the first quarter. And I felt that Brian Kelly and the press conference as well throughout the season, one worse than other.
God, I mean, the whole thing of what do you mean our offense stinks? We won the game.
Yeah, reminding of someone of Knoxville.
Yep, Mr. Jeremy Pruitt. Actually, I don't know if you saw this, guys, but there's an article right now where Jeremy Pruitt's trying to get the NCAA to reinstate him because apparently Jacksonville State was interested in hiring him. But why? It just doesn't. Why would you want to hire him?
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess because he's had some track of success of a coordinator. I was looking at old documents of mine, and I found one of those magazines, official magazines of a season.
Right.
The athletic programs do for their football, basketball, and I had one, and the article about Jeremy Pruitt. Oh my God, he was a part of so many national titles, and he had a good end of 2019 and all that positivity. And I was like, Jesus Christ, if only they knew what happened in that 2020 season. But yeah, I guess the track record of success in Florida State and Alabama as a coordinator, I guess there's still some teams interested in.
Yeah, but on Brian Kelly, though, it's clear that he never really seemed like he ever meshed with the LSU philosophy. And because LSU is a place where virtually everyone that gets hired there wins a national title. Nick Saban did, Les Miles did, even Ed Orgeron won a national championship at LSU. Yeah, Brian Kelly couldn't come even close because he wasn't a fit at LSU. He couldn't relate to the kids of Louisiana. When you think of LSU, you don't think of Brian Kelly. You just don't. When Coach O was there, he fit perfectly. When Les Miles was there, he fit perfectly. Nick Saban is Nick Saban. No need to mention that.
So, Nick, I found your take when oh my God, I forgot.
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly was hired. Do you want to see it?
Yes. What was my take? All right, so we have now been on the air long enough. We've seen the national title. I don't know about this. I'm not.
What? Sorry, Nick.
It's just crazy. We've been doing this long enough.
What? Sorry, Nick.
It's crazy that we've been on the air long enough that we can go back and look at takes on a full coaching tenure. Wait. What did I say? Let's see. Yeah. What do we say?
I'm not a fan of this move because Brian Kelly's a good coach. Now, maybe not a good person. There's a lot of evidence off the field. I mean, of course, he let a student die in an accident. So quote unquote, during it because the student was on a forklift during a windstorm that he shouldn't have been on football practice, and unfortunately it tipped over and it killed the student. There's other stories. I saw a story about Robert Salah, and I can't remember who the other coach was, but it was two coaches there now, big time head coaches themselves, who were GAs under Brian Kelly. They thought they were invited to a party by Brian Kelly. They show up and they have to shovel snow for the entire time. And then informing his players that he's leaving Notre Dame by text. And he probably did the same thing to his Cincinnati players when he left for Notre Dame. And shows up this morning, gives a 4-minute speech, and is out of there. But out of town before even the players leave the football building. Safe to say, I'm not a fan of Brian Kelly as a person. But as a football coach, he's pretty good. But the same thing goes for him like Lincoln Riley. Can't win in the postseason. Now, a lot of that to me is Notre Dame. They don't have the same quality of athlete like SEC teams. They do have some academic restrictions, and I think playing as an independent does hurt them somewhat. And it's why Notre Dame should join a conference. It'd be better for them if they were in the ACC.
I mean, they did last year. They basically did last year. They ran ACC team that needs a.
Notre Dame should join a conference. It'd be better for them if they were. Just win a ton of games. As successful.
So I guess, I mean, you should have warned the LSU staff about those issues. Maybe they would have, do some more, research. But shout out to my friend Miguel Ribeiro listening us. He says his English is not so good, but I appreciate your listening. But yeah, you're very critical of Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
What?
And all of it came to fruition. Like, I question was like, this feels like a very Lincoln Riley move for, of course, USC still has Lincoln Riley. And it just didn't work. He was not truly good enough to elevate LSU. And what's funny, the one thing that you could say is wrong is that Notre Dame has gotten a better quality of athletes since he left, because Marcus Freeman's a better recruiter than Brian Kelly was. And Notre Dame so happened to beat an SEC team head-to-head last year in the playoffs to make the national championship game. So he's won 2 playoff games. He won 3 playoff games. He's won 3 more playoff games with Notre Dame than Brian Kelly has at LSU.
And you talk about postseason, he not even make the postseason while at LSU.
Yeah, so I think that's also part of the discussion here is that Marcus Freeman's run last year, embarrassed for Brian Kelly. Because, okay, so you kept on saying, well, I can't do this at Notre Dame. That's why I had to bolt for LSU. Okay, well, why did the guy after you then just go and do it?
Yeah, pretty much exposing Brian Kelly, not as this head coach that takes you to the next level. And the question was more like the brand or the coach?
Well, I think it's the coach. The coach didn't, I think, change the philosophy like he should have when he got to LSU. Yeah, I was hearing Josh Perry was talking about this the other night, where basically he was talking about how Brian Kelly, when other coaches were out recruiting, he was like sitting on a beach in Florida, which seems very Brian Kelly. Does Brian Kelly strike you as the type of guy that puts in everything he's got into coaching? No, he doesn't. Brian Kelly just seems like the type of guy that, when he's interested, he'll show up. But in college football, you've got to be willing to live and breathe with this. Like Dan Lanning at Oregon's an example. I know that guy, all he thinks about is college football. Kirby Smart, all he thinks about is college football. Josh Heupel, all he thinks about is college football. Brian Kelly doesn't strike me as that. He strikes me as he thinks he's better than solely being, about.
And maybe it was one of those coaches that we talked about on this podcast that is stuck in the past, that doesn't see that college football has changed, that you need to recruit high school players, you need to recruit active college football players with the transfer portal, recruit your own players so they don't leave. and talk to boosters. And, it's a year-long machine, college football nowadays.
Right.
And
He just strikes me as arrogant. Like, remember when he played Tennessee in 2022? Remember when he was kept on going for it on 4th and 10 for no
yeah,
reason in that game? I'm just like, this is just straight ego at this point with some of these play calling decisions. Because,
yeah,
like that you're giving Tennessee a short field to score, and it feels like the only reason why you're doing it is to like prove some sort of analytical ego. Just because I guess he decided I got an SEC job. Now it's time to prove that I can be Nick Saban or whatever else. And it just didn't work. Now, that doesn't say that I don't think Brian Kelly's a good football coach. I mean, I still think Kelly is a good football coach. Like I said in the clip, I wouldn't want him running my football team. I mean, this dude is reckless. He's led to the death of people. He, at least indirectly, well, really directly. I mean, he ordered, the Sullivan kid up there at Notre Dame in the windstorm. I mean, that's what happened, among other things. So it just, Brian Kelly, I wouldn't want him anywhere near my football program. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think LSU is smart for getting rid of him.
yeah. And going to your next, before I talk about the next topic, one thing I was thinking to myself, let me see if you agree with me. Do you think this current format of a 12-team playoff created a necessity of producing results faster than it was 10, 15, or even 25 years ago with different formats in the 21st century? The BCS, national championship, then the 14 playoff. And now with this 12-team playoff, athletic directors see as like boosters demanding, hey, why my team cannot make it this extended format? Because before it was like, oh, we almost came through, we're 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th ranked, was this close, but next year we're gonna get it, and then we win like some, near 6 bowls that weren't the semifinals, and call it a deal. But now, if you don't make the postseason, you're the 13th ranked. So you tend to be more frustrated and create a more anxiety toward producing results. And that's why I think, college football is turning to Brazilian soccer, where coaches, they don't give enough, patience, or, they want results right away.
Well, I think there's a couple of factors. I think really NIL and transfer portal is bigger than the playoffs, because I think people now see the transfer portal like, okay, well, you can just go and get a new team and boom, you should be able to fix that team overnight. I mean, I think too, Kirk Cignetti is doing none of these coaches any favors. What he's done with Indiana the last 2 years, I think everyone who is struggling looks at Indiana as like, okay, if Indiana can magically become like the second best team in the country in 2 years, what's my school's excuse?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if this new era of NIL, transfer portal, and extended college football playoff was going to create the disparity, and they were going to, make the big brands bigger, so why Indiana Hoosiers, that never came close to be this good, is the second best team, the second best college football team this year, and they were good last year, so it wasn't a fluke.
I mean, you can say Josh Heupel did basically the same thing. I mean, at this point in year 2 under Josh Heupel, Tennessee was the number 1 team in the country. I mean, Heupel did the exact same thing because of the transfer portal, because he was able to go out and get a guy like Hendon Hooker to be his quarterback. I think this new format's proving that you have to be a different type of coach now to succeed. Like, I don't know if Josh Heupel would have been successful at Tennessee 10 years ago, but he's perfect for Tennessee now. I don't know if Kirk Cignetti would have been great at Indiana 10 years ago, but he's perfect for them now. Brian Kelly may have been great at LSU 10, 15, 20 years ago, but he isn't great for LSU today. And I think, and that's the same thing with like James Franklin, for example. James Franklin's been great for years and years and years, but his style may not have perfectly adapted to what you need to have today to be successful. That's why when you look at a guy like Nick Saban, that guy constantly adapted to changes, to new spread offense, to the transfer portal, to NIL. Like, there were like several times where I felt like, oh, is Alabama finally falling off? And then Alabama would just come back and casually win the SEC championship and make the college football playoff or win the national championship.
I mean, look what last game of Nick Saban's college football career was. Wasn't like a meaningless bowl game. It was a college football semifinals in the overtime down the wire against a really, really, really good Michigan Wolverines team.
Yeah, and Alabama would have gone and beaten Washington in the national title if they had won. Like, that game was a real national title that year. Between Harbaugh and Saban in their last true epic battle. Because really for Harbaugh and Michigan, the Washington game was just a victory lap for them.
Yeah, I agree.
The Harbaugh versus Saban, I mean, that was the true last clash for both of those college football coaching legends. Because I remember talking on this podcast, I remember we were sitting in Florida talking about that game. And I was talking about like, oh, this feels like the biggest clash of egos you could possibly have ever in college football. And it's because, when you look at both of those coaches were able to adapt. Like Harbaugh couldn't beat Ohio State at first, but he kept on adapting, he kept on finding ways to change, and he was finally able to do it.
Multiple times.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think the real trait that you need in a head coach is adaptability. Like Cignetti, for example, like he looked at Indiana as like, okay, this place has no juice, has no excitement. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in and start talking all kinds of crap. Started saying stuff like, hey, screw Ohio State and Purdue. I win. Google me, and just start like absolutely drumming up attention. Like that's what you got to do as a head coach. Josh Heupel, like looks at Tennessee, right? Like we're falling apart. We're doing all this stuff. Brings in an exciting offense that no one's ever really ran in the SEC, revitalizes Tennessee. Like, you got to do something different. And what is the defining characteristic of a Brian Kelly LSU team?
Boring offense, because the game that I watched was pretty much a really, really unexciting offense against Louisiana Tech. They got the win, but it wasn't like a really good win. It was people left in blocks at that fourth quarter against Louisiana Tech. I saw in those LSU fans how uninspiring and unattractive that team was. And you mentioned Nick Saban. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, LSU should hire him." He'll be a fool to leave ESPN to go back to coaching.
He said he's retired. Like he should just stay retired.
He's having fun at college game day. You saw he wear the costume that normally the SEC shorts do for Vandy. Like he's talking about college football. Like he's basically pretty much getting paid a lot of money to live college football, to analyze it, and don't be pressured. Why he'll go back to coaching?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. For LSU too, before we get to coaching candidates, let's talk about the situation administratively at LSU, because this makes no sense. So think of the timeline of events here. The Governor Jeff Landry, who I've actually met, by the way, he came to Chattanooga for a conference like a year ago with a couple of other governors across the country. So hey, I've met Governor Jeff Landry. He was nice. He was cool in person. Has a really cool accent. He has he kind of looks like Ed Orgeron a little bit with the Cajun accent. But anyway, besides that, so Governor Landry, he comes out and basically is like, look, if you're gonna drum up the ticket prices, you gotta put on a better product than this. So within 24 hours of that comment, Brian Kelly gets fired. So then Jeff Landry decides to hold a press conference today. Now he actually put this up on his Twitter account. So I'm gonna pull this up because you have got to see this clip, Gus, because this is insanity.
Do you have it on?
Hold on. I guess I need to do this. So this is from the Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry. All right, so just listen to what Governor Landry had to say today.
Put sound is with no sound.
Oh, okay, there we go. There's sound. All right, here's Governor Landry.
I'm not going to be picking the next coach. But I can promise you, we're going to pick a coach, and we're going to make sure that that coach is successful, and we're going to make sure that he's compensated properly, and we're going to put metrics on it, because I'm tired of rewarding failure in this country and then leaving the taxpayers on the foot, to foot the bill. So, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to be picking the next coach.
So there's that. And then, hold on, if I want to stop sharing for a second, I got to pull up this. There's another part of that bite that's also super fascinating.
While you find Blue Jays scored twice, bottom the seventh, 5-1 the Blue Jays, and down in Argentina, 2 red cards, 1 for each team, 0-0, Racing Flamengo.
Okay.
Flamengo advancing because of the goal, the 1-0 back in Brazil.
All right. So here is the full quote.
The first question is absolutely correct. We are not going down a failed path. And I wanted to tell you something. This is a pattern. The guy that's here now that wrote that contract cost Texas A&M $70-something million. Right now, we got a $53 million liability. We are not doing that again. And you know what? I believe that we're going to find a great coach. I mean, maybe we'll let President Trump pick it. He loves winners. I'm not the next coach. But I can promise you, we're going to pick a coach, and we're going to make sure that that coach is successful, and we're going to make sure that he's compensated properly, and we're going to put metrics on it, because I'm tired of rewarding failure in this country and then leaving the taxpayers on the foot, to foot the bill. So, yeah, absolutely.
But
who's that? No.
If you get off for a second.
Right now, Scott Woodward is not selecting the next coach. Hell,
one thing that I like that he brought up that I think is something that a lot of people don't think about it, but it's true, is that those buyout contracts is basically rewarding failure and also footing the bill for the taxpayer to, basically fund failure from athletic directors.
Well, I mean, the argument is, okay, so in theory, you could posture that as, oh, this is public revenue. But let's be honest, LSU do you want to guess how much money LSU's athletic department generated last year?
$1 billion?
Okay, so over $220 million.
Okay.
And the university as a whole has an economic impact of about $6 billion in Louisiana. Football has a revenue of about $108 million.
So basically, half of that is going to be for the buyout. Literally.
Basically, and granted, like they're not going to pay that all at once. It'll be paid over a period of time.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be like installments.
Yeah, and I believe if Brian Kelly were to go out and get another job, that would get negotiated down. So LSU probably won't have to pay all of that. But basically, very little taxpayer money is actually going to go to that. So Governor Landry's just basically he knows that the majority of his constituents are LSU fans. They care about LSU, and he's using this to try to score political points because they know they're all blaming the AD Scott Woodward for this decision. So basically, and right now what's going on with LSU is they don't have a president. They're still searching for a new president. So technically, the governor is running LSU because the board of directors at LSU are running the school while there is no president at LSU. And you know who appoints all the board of directors at LSU?
The governor.
So the governor technically runs LSU right now. So if he's saying the current AD is not going to hire the next head coach, then who is? I guess he is. But so there's a couple of questions here. For one, just from a practical standpoint, did the people of LSU elect their governor to cosplay as an athletic director? I would assume not. I wouldn't want Governor Lee to decide the next coach for the University of Tennessee.
And also funny that, basically Tennessee was even a worse situation in 2017 than LSU right now in the debacle and there were no interference of the governor of Tennessee back then. There were nothing, not a zip.
Because at that point it was Governor Haslam, and of course his family was the biggest donor family at UT. So
Yeah, so you would tend to even for him to be more involved, and I don't recall him making any comment or anything like that.
Right, because as a governor, you should be, I don't know, focusing on real issues like, I don't know, SNAP benefits running out next week, and people not having money and stuff like that. I mean, we have literal like severe issues, with poverty and stuff like that. Like that are actually important. And we love college football, right? Like we talk about this every week, but like you're the governor, man. Like what are we doing here?
But do you think that if somehow he scored political points with this issue, this would create probably more, other governors to maybe think the same way? For example, down in Florida with a Mike Norvell situation, the governor could interfere somehow because Florida State is the biggest university, public university down in Florida.
See, I don't think it's going to happen with Governor DeSantis because, one, you have more than one public university in Florida, right? Like you have the University of Florida, who's also searching for a coach.
That's fair.
So I don't think you're going to see a situation where if FSU and Florida are both looking for a new coach, that the governor would be getting involved there. Like, and I think Governor DeSantis is smart enough to like not do that.
I guess LSU is more centric of college football in the state of Louisiana than for example, in Florida, there's not, like, as you point out perfectly, there's multiple, like there's South Florida, there's you mentioned the Florida Gators, the Florida State.
Right, and like you could probably get away with this in a place like LSU or a place like Tennessee, honestly, because like there's no real competition in Tennessee. Like I know there's Vanderbilt, but like they're a private university, and they're not.
They have been only good this season. 5 years ago they were the laughing stock of the conference.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole situation here is just kind of ridiculous. But like, if you are a top tier coaching candidate, are you sure you want to get hired into this situation? Because it seems kind of nuts if you have like the literal governor that could pop off on you at like any moment. That just, I don't know, that doesn't seem like the greatest situation. But LSU is a top tier job. And that gets into the next question here. What is the best job available right now? We have LSU, Florida, Penn State are the top three. We still have places like Virginia Tech, UCLA that are open. You have some other places that are open, like a UAB, for example. What is the best job available right now?
And I think there's not a season that I can remember of so many job openings while the season is still ongoing. That's unheard of.
I know. Like, so people are so fast to pull the trigger now.
I remember back in 2017, I think Tennessee and Florida fired their coaches, but that was unprecedented back then.
Oh, 100%. Of course, Florida beat us out for Dan Mullen. So, but I guess, which I mean, Florida should have never fired Dan Mullen, but that's a discussion for another day. But I think out of these three, Gus, LSU is still probably the best of those three because LSU doesn't really have competition in the state of Louisiana. You have your first dibs out of players with like New Orleans and Baton Rouge. You actually have a devoted fan base. And LSU has proven you can win national titles there with multiple different coaches. Florida really has only been elite under Spurrier and Meyer. Now, Florida, yes, you're the sole SEC team in the state of Florida, but you have to deal with Florida State and Miami. You've got UCF, that's now a P4 program. You got South Florida, which is a rising G5 program, could be the best G5 program. So you have a lot of competition in the state of Florida. The NAL situation has been messy beyond all belief. Now, granted, they say the NIL situation has been fixed at Florida. but I don't know. I'm not completely convinced. Jason, actually, our friend Jason Wyrick has jumped in saying, how did LSU have first dibs on Dylan Sampson, letting him go to Tennessee? That's why Kelly is gone. Bingo. I mean, that's a perfect example right there of how Brian Kelly was not taking full advantage of being in the state of Louisiana because he was hanging out on the beach instead of actually out recruiting. At least is what Josh Pate says. And then you have like a place like Penn State, which is definitely the most high-profile Big Ten job that's open. Now, I know UCLA beat them, but Penn State's still a better job than UCLA. But you have to ask how good of a job really is Penn State. You know, there is some talent in Pennsylvania, but it isn't like Louisiana or Florida. And you clearly are in the shadow of Ohio State and Michigan. And it's not like LSU where you feel like you can just turn around instantly. Penn State hasn't won a title in 40 years. And of course, Penn State for a long time was just Joe Paterno until the child sex abuse scandal happened. And I think a lot of people think of Penn State, they think of that. And I think that is a specter that hangs over Penn State University as a whole. So out of those three, I probably would take LSU.
Yeah. Yeah, and also LSU, you have a fan base that has been more satisfied this century than Florida and Penn State, especially Penn State, because as you mentioned, Penn State has been close to make it to the promised land, but failed constantly under Franklin, and also had that scandal that still haunts them. And Florida has been good over, Urban Meyer in this century. And LSU has been good with Nick Saban, the Cowboy. Oh my God, he coached Kansas too. Oh my God, I forgot his name.
Les Miles.
Yeah, Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Orgeron. Three completely different styles. All brought them titles.
Well, to be fair, Ed Orgeron was carried by Joe Brady and Joe Burrow. And honestly, to me, if he would want to come back to LSU and be a head coach, to me, Joe Brady's where I would look. I mean, Joe Brady was responsible for your 2019 national championship and completely fixed Joe Burrow and had him pair up with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and the rest of that just insane 2019 LSU squad with Terrace Marshall, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, they were on fire that year because of how Joe Brady just modernized LSU's offense. So I would look at him. John Summerall Tulane is a guy who right now is actually the favorites. But I don't know if the Tulane coach is going to go straight to LSU, because that's like an old historic rivalry in the state of Louisiana. I don't know if LSU fans would be necessarily excited about that. Of course, there's Lane Kiffin, who's third in the odds makers. But okay, here's my take. Here's my hot prediction. I don't think Kiffin's going to leave Ole Miss. With all the discussion, I don't think Kiffin will leave Ole Miss because I think he learned from his Tennessee to USC experience, and it's not like LSU or Florida are dream jobs for Lane Kiffin like USC was. I think Lane Kiffin is perfectly content being at Ole Miss.
Yeah, because he knows that the program is completely revolves around him, and right now, what is the big difference between those schools? Because as you point out, that Tennessee to USC had the childhood and the California connection. He has no connection to Baton Rouge, to Gainesville.
Right, and if he went to LSU, LSU is the arch rival of Ole Miss too. Now, I mean, it'd be a Jim Schlossnagle move if he did that. Which, I mean, hey, I wouldn't put that past Lane Kiffin. I just think he's grown up and realized that that's not the right decision to make at this point in his career. James Franklin's fourth at plus 600. Honestly, James Franklin makes sense to LSU to me because I think he'd be a stabilizing force, and we know he would put in a lot of work. Now, would he win at a very high level? I don't know because he wasn't able to do it at Penn State. And I feel like it'd be very underwhelming for the folks at LSU. Same would go for the folks over at Florida. I think they would be very underwhelmed with that hire. I think a school like Virginia Tech should look at a James Franklin. So I think he'd be great at a place like that. Of course, Kirk Cignetti's plus 700. I'll be honest with you, I don't think Cignetti's leaving Indiana either. Because Indiana, actually, if you look at their NIL budget, they have like the 12th largest NIL budget in the country. Like, Mark Cuban's actually starting to invest more into the football program at this point. I mean, you might have a good thing going there in Indiana. Like, you might want to not leave there. So I think the question for us too, should we be concerned at all about Heupel being a candidate for this job?
Again, it's the same category as Lane Kiffin. Why would he leave for another SEC foe? Like, it looks like they're gonna go outside SEC, like Tennessee did when Lane Kiffin left. Remember, Tennessee hired Louisiana Tech head coach.
Right. Because the question is, could LSU convince Heupel that he could do more at LSU than he's doing right now at Tennessee? And honestly, I don't think there's that big of a difference. You can win a national championship at Tennessee, like you win a national championship at LSU. Like, there's not that much of a difference. And I would like to think that Heupel would stay with what he knows versus going after a place like LSU. Like, it just doesn't make sense for him to make that decision. There's actually, I saw a Virginia Tech guy there. They're trying to claim that, Virginia Tech should try to hire Josh Heupel away from Tennessee, which is obviously ridiculous on his face. No, Virginia Tech honestly is not that good of a job at this point. Honestly, like, I would be advising like Alex Golesh not to leave South Florida for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, maybe he go to Florida. I definitely, if I'm Florida, normally you hire the coach that beat you.
That's what I'm terrified of, Gus. I don't want them to hire Alex Golesh because I think Alex Golesh is a very, very good coach, and I don't want him to be at Florida or LSU. But it certainly seems like we have a very good possibility of that occurring. But yeah, certainly it's going to be very interesting. I'll tell you another job that should be open that is not for some reason right now. The Kentucky Wildcats. What is Kentucky doing here? I mean, obviously Tennessee beat them 56-34. We do what we always do, Gus, and beat Kentucky. Like, we talked about this last week. We were not worried in the slightest about this game because this is what Tennessee does. We beat Kentucky. I've been alive for 27 years, and we've only lost to them 3 times.
And one of them, you were there.
Yeah, for COVID. But I've been at 2 of the losses, actually.
Wow, really?
I was at 2017, my freshman year, when we lost in Lexington and Butch's last year. And I was at 2020 COVID. So technically, Kentucky, we are 4-2 when I'm in attendance versus Kentucky because I have seen us beat them in 2016, 2018, 2019, and 2022. So I saw us lose 17-20. So in any case, it's interesting that I've seen 2 of the 3 Kentucky losses, which, I didn't feel good leaving the stadium either time. Let's just put it like that. But what was interesting about this game, Gus, is I was going to start with the Kentucky side here. And you got to give the offense credit. They did play decently well. Now, I do think that had more to do with Tennessee's defense just being not very good. And I want to talk more about that when we get to Tennessee, Oklahoma. But, yeah, their defense got completely shredded. And you could just tell that team never really truly believed they had a chance to win. And that fan base they did not have any belief. Like, the stadium was never full. There was a lot of orange up there, and they were gone by the middle of the second half. And that stadium was the emptiest I've ever seen in an SEC stadium by the end of the game. Outside of Tennessee fans, like, it's just embarrassing that Kentucky is tolerating this. I mean, Tennessee has more wins at Kroger Field, which, still, you got a grocery store name. Yeah, they have more wins at Kroger Field since 2022, free, than Kentucky has against SEC teams since 2021 too. And Mark Stoops is still employed. In fact, Mark Stoops gets paid the same salary per year that Josh Heupel does.
Accomplishing way less.
Yeah, like, Josh Heupel has made a college football playoff, won a New Year's Six bowl game, beaten Alabama twice. And Mark Stoops has beaten how many SEC teams at home? 2.
And the most top rank was like number 10, I believe. I think it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, when they had Will Levis. So, when people were for some reason were convinced he was a top pick. But yeah, Kentucky is just a disaster. But hey, shout out to and Jason points this out, and you're talking about Tennessee's defense. So in his opinion, he says Tennessee's D isn't that bad. We're just exposed about Jamar the Island. The recruiting DB is a completely different but equally concerning issue. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of William Martinez as a DB's coach. I mean, the DBs just look lost sometimes, and we have some completely avoidable bust, like on the screen pass that they took for their first touchdown, Kentucky. Like, where were we? Like, we had no one on that side of the field, and just the technique's not good. I feel like from the back end, we missed so many tackles. At least we have an offense, though. I mean, Joey Aguilar played his best game. I thought was on the money. Had nearly 400 yards passing. Was just dropping dimes downfield. It was a thing of beauty to watch. Of course, obviously, we got a massive game coming up to this week. I want to save that for game picks, Gus. The other game I want to talk about from this past week, Texas, Mississippi State. Man, I feel so bad for Mississippi State fans, Gus.
Me too.
I mean, how much more pain can a team take? They haven't won an SEC game in 2 years. And really, it's been just a nightmare since Mike Leach unfortunately left us back at the end of 2022. It's just been a nightmare for Mississippi State. And it looked like they were going to finally have a eureka moment. Well, they beat Arizona State earlier this year, and that was kind of a eureka moment. But this was really going to be that. We're going to beat Texas. We're up by 17. We've got the Cowbells are going freaking nuts. And they just completely collapse. They can't finish it off. They let up a punt return for a touchdown. That sends it to overtime, and they lose to overtime to Texas. And basically the same exact way they lost to Tennessee in overtime. This is truly, I mean, it's like they're stuck in the 11th circle of hell. Like if you've ever read Dante, they are stuck in purgatory. I don't even know what else they can do.
Just a quick update. So the game is over. 0-0. Racing Flamengo again in the Libertadores final. They survived. And we're going to talk about that later. The pressure of Racing, but Flamengo made it to the Libertadores final. But
Blue Jays, Dodgers going to the top of the ninth. It's 6-1, the Blue Jays.
But back to Mississippi State. Yeah, they are in hell. They are. I thought that Arizona State win was going to capitalize into a decent season. That Texas game showed otherwise.
Yeah, just brutal. And, Texas still is not playing like very well, but hey, they're finding ways to win these close games, surviving both Kentucky and Miss-State in back-to-back weeks in overtime. But you can't be that confident about them. Arch Manning got hurt. We don't know really what his status is going to be. And they host Vanderbilt this week at home. And, I mean, it probably would have been nuts preseason. I think that Vanderbilt was probably the better team heading into this game. But at this point, it feels like Vanderbilt's the better team heading into Texas. At least what it feels like to me. I mean, I know Texas has more talent on paper, but Vanderbilt had LSU had more talent than paper than LSU, or LSU had more talent than Vanderbilt on paper, and Vandy just ran through them. So it's a tough deal here for Texas. Like they're going to have to really bow up because they have 2 losses. You can't lose anymore. You still have Texas A&M, who's undefeated. You have Vanderbilt. We'll see what Texas can do. And, speaking of other takeaways here, that Vandy-Mizzou game was pretty wild. A very weird game, a ton of turnovers. But, hey, shout out to Vandy for finishing that off. And now Vandy, I think it's more likely than not they make the playoffs at this point because because all you gotta do is you have Texas, you have Kentucky, Auburn, and Tennessee, right? So you have to win 3 of those games. I think there's a very good chance they can win one of Texas and Tennessee and win the other 2. Like, I think Vandy, I will be surprised if they're not in the playoffs at this point. Like, it's remarkable what Vanderbilt has done. And, same goes for Georgia Tech, too. Like, Georgia Tech's undefeated. They continue to roll. And it's very impressive. They're probably going to be undefeated, potentially, going into Georgia. So, just a lot of really interesting football being played. Also, Colorado. We got to say this. I think the Dion experiment's getting close to being over as well. They were down 43-0 at halftime the other day to Utah. Then they had like negative 40 yards at halftime. Another disaster.
Yeah, I had a feeling that after Shadur Sanders left and Travis Hunt
Hunter.
leaves, Travis Hunter leaves as well, how the program is going to get affected by, and pretty much either he is going to stay to try to fully rebuild, or he's going to leave like, hey, I coached it, I came, I left.
Yeah. I don't think there's much left there for them to accomplish. All right, underrated games this week, Gus.
But before that, we talked a lot about LSU, but how about Texas A&M? The way they have been, playing and also being undefeated right now. This is as close as they got to finally making the playoff, because if there's a team in this decade who really deserved and fought to be on the top, was Texas A&M, getting Jimbo Fisher and be really, really close in 2020, fire him, the coaching change, and now they are pretty much one of those few SEC teams that are undefeated.
Right, and you look at the next 4 weeks. You're at Missouri, who's going to be on a backup quarterback now. Then you're home against South Carolina, who is in free fall mode at this point. I know they took Alabama to the wire. And hey, also, you got to give Bama credit, too, for that one. I know they didn't play well, but unranked teams on the road for Kalen DeBoer have been a serious weak spot for him. So, hey.
Yeah, it was kind of like a kryptonite. Like last year, Vandy, this year's Florida State.
Right, but hey, they won that game, and that's big for Alabama. And the only game left they have that's like that is Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So, and we all know that Bama tends to struggle at Auburn.
And how crazy, like Texas A&M right now is the only truly undefeated team in the SEC, conference-wise and as an overall.
Correct. Which is remarkable. Because up until this week, I probably would have told you I'm not completely sold on A&M as a contender, but I think I might be getting to that point. At the very least, I think A&M is going to be 11-0 heading into Texas.
And if they make it 11-0 into Texas, they're pretty much locked in at least to the SEC championship. And then I don't see them.
I don't know if they will be. There could be a scenario where you have 4 or 5 teams that wouldn't loss. So I don't know how that scenario would work. So they may have to win that game. They would at the very least be in the playoffs.
Do you know what's funny? There's a scenario where Texas win it all and play elimination game with the Aggies for the SEC championship game. Like last year. Remember, last year was the opposite side.
Yeah. Yeah, because A&M had to win, and they weren't able to get it done. And now the tables are going to be reversed. I'm just curious what that atmosphere is going to be like in Austin, because I feel like A&M fans hate Texas more than Texas hates A&M.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's going to be a super fascinating game once we get there. Texas at Texas A&M. But in any case, All right, underrated games this week, Gus. I've got 3 I've listed here. I think you got number 10 Miami at SMU, which I think preseason probably would have been one of the bigger games of this week, but SMU has just not performed well this year. They lost last week at Wake Forest. And with really a lot of the same pieces returning, just an inexplicable fall off for the Mustangs. But with Miami, though, Miami has not played as well the past few weeks. You know, they lost at home to Louisville. They kind of struggled with Stanford the other night before pulling away. Miami going on the road to SMU. Could things get funky there? With Mario Cristobal on the sideline, anything is possible, Gus.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you've got the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, number 5 Georgia versus Florida. You know, what does Florida look like with their first game post Billy going up against Georgia? You know, like, what do they do in that game? That's certainly a question.
My underrated game of the week is Navy and North Texas, because there's huge implications in that game for the G5 spot in the playoffs.
100%.
Because Navy's undefeated and North Texas is a one-loss team, but they play at home. So basically, if North Texas wants to keep their chance alive, they have to win it. And if Navy wins, they are really, really close to being the G5 team.
Yeah. And Navy still has to play Notre Dame as well. I'm actually going to take North Texas in that game.
I'm going with Navy.
Yeah. Also, another underrated game, too. Kentucky at Auburn, because this feels like another loser gets fired type game between Hugh and Mark Stoops.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think that's the nail in the coffin for Stoops. Give me Auburn.
Yeah. Also, I think Georgia rolls over Florida, and Miami will get SMU. My upset alert for the week is Cal over 15 Virginia. I think Virginia, they barely escaped Chapel Hill last week. Really have not looked as sharp recently, and it feels like going across the country to California could be a very dangerous spot for them.
Yeah, because, Cal is a way better team than North Carolina has been this season.
Right. I think also, too, another one that I almost picked would be Virginia Tech over Louisville, because Louisville did not play very sharp against Boston College, and they're going on the road to Blacksburg, so it could be super fascinating. All right. But in any case, let's pick real quick. So we've already picked Navy, North Texas. How about number 23 USC traveling to Nebraska, Gus?
Yeah. Oh, we have a guest, our honorary guest.
What's up, Jason?
Jason, did you hear the pick that Nick made with your Louisville Cardinals?
I'm not saying Louisville's going to lose at Virginia Tech. I'm just saying Louisville needs to be very careful at Virginia Tech.
Well, crap, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
Louisville is not very good. Louisville is not as good as the record shows. I want that to be known. The upset against Miami was awesome. And then we sleepwalk through the hangover game. And that's exactly what happened. Miller Moss has not been good all season. So I would take the Cards to win, but it's going to be a needlessly close game once again.
Right. I think one of Virginia at Cal and Louisville at Virginia Tech, there'll be an upset in one of those two games. I just hope it isn't Louisville.
You and I both, Nick. You and I both.
Yeah, because it just feels like that would be the very ACC thing to happen. I mean, there's also Georgia Tech at NC State, Miami and SMU. Like, there's no way we get through all 4 of those games without an upset somewhere. I mean, that's not the way the ACC works. So
the ACC is such an enigma as a conference, because every once in a while you'll have a team that you think, that team could win a championship, and then most years you're just like, this is what the SEC would be if the SEC wasn't elite.
Yeah.
Everybody's cannibalizing each other, but everybody's mid.
Yeah.
Not great.
So, in any case, USC Nebraska game in Lincoln. I feels like Matt Rhule both of these coaches need this one back, right? Because USC is trying to stay in the playoff hunt, while Nebraska is just looking for a signature win of any type. They just need a signature win.
I think Nebraska needs this more, personally.
Oh yeah.
Lincoln Riley can just ride coattails.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go. I'm actually gonna ride with USC though. I just don't believe in Nebraska.
Oh, I'd pick USC to beat them, but I think Nebraska needs it more at least.
Yeah.
I still picking the Cornhuskers.
Yes. Now we have the college game day game of the week. Number 17 Cincinnati at number 24 Utah. Maybe the most random top 25 game of all time. It feels like. What do you think about this one?
I mean, Utah pretty much dominated Colorado, we mentioned, but Cincinnati has been good again. Give me the Bearcats.
Give me anybody against Scott Satterfield. Utah by 100.
Yeah, give me Utah. I mean, Cincinnati really hasn't beaten anyone. I mean, I got to give their quarterback credit. He's putting up big numbers. But really, who has Cincinnati's best one is Iowa State, and Iowa State turned out to be fraudulent to begin the year. So, and Cincinnati lost to Nebraska. They lost to Nebraska in a tight game. How do you lose to Nebraska in a tight game? Who are the ultimate choke artist in tight games? But in any case, yeah, I'll take Utah.
You've obviously never seen Indy 11 play, Nick.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Oh my God, yeah.
Okay. Number 9, Vanderbilt. I can't believe they're number 9. At number 20, Texas.
Vandy.
Texas.
I'm going to take Texas. But I think it's going to be really tight. All right. And that gets us to the game of the week. Number 18, Oklahoma. At number 14, Tennessee. Of course, Oklahoma's coming off the home loss to Ole Miss, 34-26. And the Vols coming off that big 56-34 win against Kentucky. Now, it's worth noting, I think, when you look at this game from Tennessee, right? Like, yes, we're 6-2. But if you look at our 6 wins, not the strongest. I mean, we've beaten the 3 SEC teams that have no SEC wins so far. So Tennessee needs to start getting some quality wins, and this would be the first quality win that Tennessee has this year. And to me, I think, the headline here is Tennessee's defense, which has really been struggling, did not have a good day on Saturday, versus Oklahoma's offense, who, ever since John Mateer injured his thumb about a month ago, they've been struggling a bit. And now you have basically a stoppable force versus a movable object colliding here in Knoxville. I don't know. Something's got to give, right? Because, Oklahoma has not scored 30 in an SEC game. Tennessee has given up 30-plus in every SEC game. So, I mean, I don't know what to really expect here, because the Tennessee fan in me is expecting us to give up a lot of points. But when I go and read Oklahoma fans' comments, they're like, we're not going to go in there and score at all. So I don't know what to expect here, guys.
Like I said in my comment, I think our defense is not bad. I think, all in all, the defense isn't bad, but we are exposed without Jermod McCoy being on an island out there. And Colton Hood is great, but he may or may not even be playing, apparently. So we'll see. And if he's not playing, we're in trouble.
Yeah, because our CB1 at that point is Ty Redmond, who, he's a true freshman.
The fact that we don't have better defensive back depth is, like I said before, an equally concerning but completely different problem.
Right. Well, I don't think you can plan for your top 3 cornerbacks all being out at the same time. That's a pretty rare situation. But like, yeah, even in the
But
SC,
anything's possible, Nick. You have to be ready.
yeah, I mean it's insane that we're in this spot, but it is the spot that we're in, and I wish that we had planned better for that possibility. Now, when you think about Oklahoma, when you look at them, it's John Mateer. Oklahoma has not had a good running game like all year. Like they did have some big runs against Ole Miss towards the back half. I think Xavier Robinson is his name. He emerged as their top running back. They had brought in Jaden Ott from Cal to be their running back this year, and he's really done nothing all year. Just has done nothing. So they've really had to rely on the pass. And Ben Archbuckle, who's the OC they brought in from Washington State, he gets pass happy. If the run doesn't work, he starts throwing the ball around a lot. And John Mateer, especially when his foam was healthy, he could do it. He could make any throw. But right now, his accuracy's been kind of off. Like, his accuracy was off last week against Ole Miss. He didn't look comfortable, and it looks like, really, honestly, he was forcing stuff. And that Archbuckle was asking Mateer to save the day, basically. And that does concern me, because against this secondary, Mateer is going to have his chances with wide open receivers. Like, he's going to have his chances to really make Tennessee pay if Oklahoma decides to just air it out, which they're liable to do. But then on the other side of this, it's just strength versus strength, because obviously our offense has been humming, been very, very good in every game outside of Alabama, versus Oklahoma's defense, which has overall been very, very good outside of their game last week against Ole Miss. Like, Oklahoma's strength really is in their front seven. They have guys like R. Mason Thomas, who will be in the NFL next year. And our offensive line is going to have to play very well, because I look at a game like Alabama where they didn't play that well. And if our O-line plays the same way against Oklahoma that they did against Alabama, we're going to have issues with Joey getting pressured. But with that being said, though, we have to establish the run. Ole Miss was able to do that, get quick stuff to the side, really spread them out, because you can go after Oklahoma secondary. And this passing attack that we have is something that they've only faced with Ole Miss, and Ole Miss really spread them out and really had their day. So I think Tennessee should be able to score on Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma's going to be able to score on us. And I think this is going to end up being a Joey Aguilar versus John Mateer game of who plays better. And, we've seen two very different Joeys in the last 2 weeks, right? Like, he struggled at Alabama, including just a devastating pick 6 at the goal line. Then he came back and had his best game as of all last week, just dropping dimes down the field the entire game, just in complete command. So it's going to be a fascinating matchup here. And I think it's going to look entirely different from last year, because, you were going to Norman. You had, like, the big Heupel returning to his home. And I don't really feel like that's as big of a deal this time, because you played them last year, and like, now it's just, all right, now it's just another SEC game.
Yeah, for sure. And Josh Heupel's not even from Oklahoma either. He's from South Dakota. So he played there. He won a championship there. He was a GA there. He coached there, and he returned there, and he kicked their ass. Some things are just better done in Tennessee. But Josh Heupel has done something that I did not think was possible. And boys, I want to take a moment, if you would let me, because I need to apologize to Joey Aguilar. Joey, I owe you an apology. I was very vocal about my concerns with your game, and I cannot possibly be happier to be wrong. Josh Heupel worked his magic and fixed his mechanics, and now Joey's weaknesses have been schemed over, and he's looking pretty good. And he's turned Joey Aguilar into Baker Mayfield in the way he plays. Josh Heupel turned Joey Aguilar into the Peyton Manning of the island of misfit toys. Sure, he's still susceptible to the occasional bozo moment, because, the bozo gene never completely goes away. But to his credit, Joey's done a terrific job to avoid those moments and minimize them. And you know what? I think it's going to be his ticket to the NFL as well. So, Joey, I'm sorry for doubting your abilities. Josh Heupel, I apologize for not believing in you as a quarterback whisperer. Let's do this shit.
Yeah. I mean, I remember reacting to tape of him, and you were very critical. Not very, but somewhat critical. But that's what I like about him. He came with poise, with the humble mentality, and that's what made it a difference. And that's why he thrived at Tennessee under Heupel.
Yeah, and we couldn't have found a better quarterback for this year, given what happened this offseason. You know, like we just couldn't have someone who was completely endeared himself to the fan base and was able to pick up this offense like incredibly quickly. I mean, it's just awesome. And no matter how the rest of this year goes, I'll be forever grateful for Joey stepping into this and given what he has given us, no matter what the results are for the rest of the year. Like he has more than earned a place in Tennessee lore for coming in at the last second to be your quarterback this year.
He's going to be a cult hero forever. And to his credit, he's earned this. He has never given up. And he deserves this opportunity. And he deserves the backing that he has at Tennessee also. And you know what? We deserve him too. After what happened, we deserve him. And you know what? I think everything worked out exactly like it needed to.
Yep. And now he deserves to go out and get a big, big win as well, because he had a win stolen from him back in September, because Joey Aguilar did everything in his power to beat Georgia, and it just didn't work out. So why don't we make it up on Saturday? Dark mode, nighttime, Neyland's going to be roaring. Well, yes, the whole Heupel versus Oklahoma thing I think got settled last year. There is another psychological element to this game that I think is important to know. And it's more for just Tennessee, the program. You'll remember, guys, in 2015, we were kind of in ascension mode. We had a big game, week 2 at home against Oklahoma. We were up 17-0 in that game and completely collapsed, let Baker Mayfield bring Oklahoma all the way back and beat us in double overtime. And Butch Jones never really recovered from that loss. He didn't. And really, the Tennessee program kind of never really recovered from that loss until like 2022. So, obviously, yes, you beat Oklahoma last year, but you get them back in Neyland for the first time in a decade, where one of the most heartbreaking and heart-wrenching losses in modern Tennessee football history occurred. And I want revenge for that night on Saturday. I want to finish the deal in Neyland this time.
Will we?
That is the $1 million question, because our defense, like they did Saturday, while they didn't play well, they did get 2 big turnovers, including a pick 6 of Idris Farouk. And the one thing our defense has been good at is getting defensive scores this year. We are tied, I think, for 2nd in the country and getting sacks. And like the defense is good at doing havoc plays, at creating chaos. But if they're not creating chaos, then they're just giving up chunk plays. So it's like, I think
that's why we need Jermod Island, Nick. That's
Yeah.
exactly why.
Yeah. Basically, when the Tennessee defense is on the field, someone is gonna score. You just don't know who. And we need it to be the Tennessee defense at least once or twice in this game. And we also need our O-line to play their best game of the year. You know, I don't want to see our Mason Thomas on Joey Aguilar in this game, because that would be a problem. We need to establish the run, because that's the one thing that does concern me leaving Kentucky, is we really didn't run the ball that well at Kentucky. Like, our success on offense was 80% for the air in that game, which is kind of unusual for a Heupel offense. Where usually it's a run first, but we've had to really rely on the pass game here. So I will say this: I think this game being at home You know that, and look at Oklahoma's schedule. They really haven't played in an atmosphere like this year. The only road game they've had before this was South Carolina, and that fan base was already checked out by the time Oklahoma went to play them. So this is the first engaged atmosphere they're going to have to deal with this year. I think these two teams on a neutral field are practically even. But I think this game being at home, I just think that the Vols are going to find a way. And it'll be a high scoring game, something like 45-38.
But I take the Vols too. But do you think Brent Venables is going to be in the hot seat if he loses again?
Yeah.
Yes.
And for Oklahoma,
because last year was disappointing, and it feels like this year is going to be another disappointment season.
Oh, it's already there, Gus. We're past that. If Oklahoma's not in the top 5, the coach should be on the hot seat.
Well, I think when they lost to unranked by 17, like that killed Brent Venables. Like losing to Texas like that, especially this Texas team, that was unacceptable how that game went down. That losing to Ole Miss is one thing because Ole Miss is a top 10 team, but like that Texas game really is what dooms them because Oklahoma, after this game, they go to Alabama in 2 weeks. And you know Alabama is going to be looking for revenge in Tuscaloosa. I think Alabama will probably steamroll Oklahoma this season. But I just think in this one, I think it's going to be really tight. I think it's going to be really impactful. And when you look at Tennessee, right, like we have 4 games left. You got Oklahoma, New Mexico State, at Florida, Vanderbilt, right? You're going to have to win all 4 of those to make the playoffs. And really, you assume New Mexico State's a win. You've got 3 SEC games left. What do we think is the most likely record in those games? 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3. You know, because you need to be 3-0 to make the playoffs. I think most people would be okay with 2-1 if one of the 2 wins is at Florida to break the swamp streak, you know, like because at that point, you know, obviously, yes, I want to make the playoffs. That's the thing I'm thinking about the most right now is can we win in 3 weeks in Florida? Because if for anything else, I want to win in the swamp. Like desperately. Like we need to win in Gainesville. And I feel like I could live with 2-1 with a win in Florida. You know? But
yeah,
with defense, we could easily go 1-2. You know, that it just
Boys, I think we go 3-0. I think we win.
I agree with you.
Oklahoma's defense doesn't scare me. I think they're good, but they're not great. I think this is a winnable game. I think we should beat Florida. They're a shambles. New Mexico State is New Mexico State. And let's see, who else do we have?
Vanderbilt at home last game.
Yeah, Vandy. I mean, it's either Vandy at home or Vandy halfway at home, depending on where you play. So, but we should beat Vandy. You should never lose to Vanderbilt.
Probably Vandy. What would be their biggest game in school history? Because let's say they lose to Texas this week and then beat Auburn and Kentucky. Vandy would be 9-2 heading into Knoxville.
And we will keep them out of the playoffs. That is my prediction.
Yeah. Like we could, the scenario could be 9-2 Vandy at 9-2 Tennessee. Winner goes to the playoffs.
And I'm back in Tennessee every time. It's at Neyland too. Are you kidding?
Like we would actually, like usually I feel like Neyland, we kind of like take the Vandy game for granted normally. We won't that day.
Oh, we definitely won't.
Yeah. Like Vanderbilt will have never faced such a hostile atmosphere in their life.
Ever in any sport, even baseball.
Yeah, like even and especially after all the stuff that Diego Pavia was talking.
He's got to hear a lot of crap. Oh my god!
Yeah, especially
it wouldn't surprise me if he had ketchup bottles thrown at him.
Well, even if for some reason we lose to Oklahoma or Florida.
Oh, we're keeping Vandy out of the playoff, 100%.
Yeah,
I will put money on that one.
Yeah, so that I can't wait. This last month of the season is going to be massive.
Do
and-
you guys still think there's a path Tennessee has for making the SEC championship, or do you think it's too far fetched?
I think the SEC championship's out of left field. We're gonna have a lot of people lose, because even looking at Texas A&M, like they could lose to just Texas and miss the SEC championship at 7-1. Like because Georgia might not lose again in the SEC, Bama probably is not going to lose again in the SEC.
No, no. The math is simple. If Alabama run the table, Texas run the table, and beat the Aggies, then it's Alabama, Texas.
Right, but we still have to overcome both Georgia and Alabama in the standings. It just isn't going to be.
Atlanta's out of reach.
Yeah,
The playoff is manageable. The SEC title game, I think that's out of reach. I think we're having that weekend off.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that weekend was screwed up when we blew the Georgia game. So it just is what it is on that one. But anyway, real quick before you run, Jason, Josh Elander, the new Tennessee baseball coach, was hired on Saturday. Just what are your quick thoughts on him?
Look, I think Josh Elander is a terrific up-and-coming coach. He's already turned down several power conference head coach jobs to this point for the last couple of off seasons. That's kind of what he's been doing. And you know what? I'm here for it. He wanted to be around till the right job opened up, and sometimes it's better to not overthink it. He is one of the big reasons that this program is good. Tony Vitello is terrific, but he coached Josh Elander at TCU. Okay, Josh Elander knows exactly how to keep this rolling. And he's also the guy who has recruited most of these kids. They will run through a brick wall for him. He is better suited for this job than Early was at Texas A&M or Mike Martin. I believe Mike Martin's son, Mike Martin Jr. maybe. So, whoever Mike Martin's son, whatever his name is, better suited than him at Florida State. My only concern is we need to get him a top assistant to fill his own shoes. If he can go and find somebody, which I have no reason to believe that we won't be able to do this, go into one of the best programs, get a top assistant, get him to Knoxville, I think Tennessee baseball keeps right on rolling. I think Josh Elander is perfectly suited for this transition. And I think if we back him and get him a top assistant, he can keep that train rolling. I expect him to have a much better season than Michael Early had at Texas A&M last year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's going to be really exciting. Just seeing the players and their reaction is very, very encouraging, right? And obviously,
sometimes you just got to not overthink it.
Right.
He's part of the reason that you're up where you are. All right, keep it rolling.
And it appears the only candidate we ever really looked at for this job outside of him was Kevin Chanel for Coastal Carolina, which obviously would have been, I think, a fantastic hire in its own right, given that he just took the Chanticleers to the national championship. But hey, like Elander and Chanel are very similar, so you might as well go with the guy you already know.
And I think the other thing, my main concern with this hire is more often than not, the next guy in line doesn't usually pay off. Michael Early at Texas A&M, Mike Martin's son at Florida State. Those are the examples. Those programs fell off a cliff. However, with that said, Schnell from Coastal Carolina is the exception to that rule because he took them to the National Championship Series in his first season as a head coach. Period. That's it. It can be done. But you know what they did? They backed him by getting him a good assistant to fill his own shoes. It's possible. And as long as we back Elander, I have no reason to believe that he won't be very successful. And if he's not, well, we've got one of the top jobs in the country. We can go call Kevin Schnell back.
Right. And, Danny White clearly is funding this program. Now, despite what some of the people online are saying about how Danny White hates the baseball team or whatever.
Yeah, he hates them so much that he's building a really nice expansion on the ballpark and funding the baseball programs, NIL, and all kinds of shit. Go to hell.
It doesn't make
And
sense.
with that, I'm out. See y'all.
No, see y'all. All right, that was Jason Wyrick. But yeah,
That was
guys,
a great way to finish his participation. Yeah, it's ludicrous to think about that.
yeah, just kind of what's your thoughts on this, Gus? Because I think you don't want the A&M outcome, but I do think Tennessee is in a better position culturally, and obviously Tony V left a massive impact here. I think he left a better culture than like Jem Schlossnagle left at Texas A&M. I don't know if you saw his letter, Gus, that he penned to the Tennessee fan base over the weekend, and just how emotional it was, and how he's always going to be a Tennessean, and just talking about the memories. And
Whoever is gonna, fill in for him, it's in a massive challenge because you don't want to be the coach after Saban. You don't want to be the coach after
after like Coach K or
Coach K or the one in North Carolina, Dean Smith.
right.
Like you don't want to be those coaches that you don't want to be hired after a legend. You just don't, because you have to overcome somebody that brought you to the promised land that you never thought would have been possible 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an incredibly difficult and tall task, but hey, Josh Elander, I believe in him. He's going to be that guy. He, I think, is going to do well. Also, while we're talking about the Vols, I want to mention the Vols basketball team. The Basketballs had an exhibition Sunday versus Duke. We did lose in this exhibition game. Obviously, the game doesn't count, so it doesn't matter. So really, how did we look? A lot of promise. I think there's a lot of promise for this team. Obviously, Nate Ament, a very physical freak. You could tell that he has a very high ceiling, possible top 5 pick next year in the NBA draft. Jacoby Gillespie, that dude can shoot the lights out. My thing that I saw here that does concern me a little bit is Ament seemed to want to take a lot of the shots and be a little selfish with the ball and try to put up some really difficult shots. He's going to need to play more for the offense, I think, for this offense to really work. But at the same time, we have a lot of bigs that are going to play on this team and are going to contribute significant minutes. I think that will be a huge difference from what you saw last year, where we did not have much of a front court, especially after JP Estrella got hurt. So I think that's going to be a massive difference for us. And hopefully Ament continues to grow and we'll play more up in the offense. And we'll have a good season, I think. I think we're going to have a very good team.
Yeah, let's not overreact because of an exhibition game.
Correct.
That doesn't count. It's good to be.
There's people running around saying, "Oh, Tennessee's basketball going to be bad this year because we lost." It's a practice game.
You want to find your mistakes at a practice game. That's what coaches want. They want your team to get exposed in games that don't count, so they can fix it for games that don't count. Yeah.
I also want to say this: Duke looks really good. Like Duke looks like they could get back to the Final Four easily. Cameron Boozer, that dude is going to be insane. That dude could be Player of the Year material. Like Tennessee Duke, it was a practice game, but it felt like a real game. Like it was a very intense game. But those two were not holding punches. It feels like that could be a game we see again in March. Like just putting that out there, just put that in the memory bank. We've seen Duke and Tennessee before, right? I think it was 2023. They ran into each other in the second round. And, of course, the Vols won that game. So just put that in the memory bank. Tennessee-Duke. That looked like a legit game. Also, I know Kentucky beat Purdue. Kansas beat Louisville and some of the other exhibition games across the country. But, hey, the real thing starts on Monday when the first real game, the Vols have Mercer on Monday night. So it's about here, Gus. And we're going to have some basketball to discuss.
Oh yeah, the season's starting soon. Like actual games, and hopefully, finally, I bet Rick Barnes cannot wait to get to March because that's all he thinks about. To be honest,
yeah,
and it's fans too.
All right, let's go into the NFL, Gus. And hey, we're gonna celebrate your New York Jets. They gotta win.
Hallelujah.
39-38 against Cincinnati.
Hallelujah.
And hey,
Hallelujah.
I'm so
Why?
happy for Justin Fields. Yeah,
Why?
Woody Johnson calls him out.
Why they couldn't do that in Tampa? So unfair.
Yeah, well, they almost did. They just unfortunately couldn't stop him at the end. But hey, but they got it done in Cincinnati, and I first got to say this, not to take away anything from the New York Jets. Cincinnati's defense is awful. Awful. I mean, Cincinnati's front office should be ashamed of themselves. You have a generational quarterback that you can't keep healthy, a generational receiver, and you cannot fund a defense to save your life. It's embarrassing for the Cincinnati Bengals. You literally had an offense in the Jets where the owner was like openly questioning if his quarterback could complete a pass. And
Do you know what's ironic?
what?
Woody Johnson's thinking, how smart I am. I provoked him and he won.
Probably. Yeah, Woody Johnson's an idiot. He
Oh,
just
but he's thinking to himself, oh yeah, that's why I said what I said.
yeah. You got to be smarter than you think you are, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, I'm happy for Justin Fields. Breece Hall had a big game. Got to win. So we are not going to have no 0-17 teams this year by all miracles, because I thought the Titans were going to go 0-17, to be honest with you. Just glad they got one win. I don't think the Titans are winning any more games at this rate. So that's just, maybe they'll beat the Saints in December, but that's kind of it. Also, the saddest moment of the week was easily Cam Scatterboo getting hurt.
Oh my God, so sad.
Yeah, just an awful injury at Philadelphia. I was reading about it earlier. It's bad. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the same player after this. And that guy is already back in the facility, wheelchairing himself around, being in team meetings. That's a guy every team needs. And I hope he can make it back. So anyway, just thinking about him, praying for him. Hopefully he can get healthy, and because I saw there's a chance that his wound might get infected too. So it's just hopefully the primary thing is that he's just healthy and just doesn't have any long-term impacts for him. But anyway, Gus, let's pick some football games here. The Thursday night game, I don't know why. Well, okay, I can tell you in the preseason, this looked like a really good game. Unfortunately, it's not materialized. We have the 2-5 Ravens, probably with the return of Lamar Jackson, just a caveat, versus Tua and the Miami Dolphins. And hey, gotta give credit to Tua. Tua had like 4 touchdowns against the Atlanta Falcons the other day. So this might be the best 2-5 versus 2-6 game you'll ever see.
And tickets are $75. It translates the excitement of those below 500 franchises, but give me the Ravens.
I'll take the Ravens too. Lamar will ball out. All right, 1 p.m. here. Yeah, the 5-3 Los Angeles Chargers going to the 1-7 Tennessee Titans.
Can they finally win at Nissan Stadium? Sorry, Nick. No. Give me the Chargers.
Chargers. Don't even need. And also, too, why are trading Roger McCreary for a 5th-round pick? Guys, why? Why? Like, you're not getting anything valuable in return for one of your starting corners. I don't get it, Gus. I don't get how this franchise is ran. We just make stupid move after stupid move.
After stupid move.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
Also, just confirm to me, daylight saving time ends this weekend?
Correct. Yep. We fall back an hour this week.
So it's going to be 2-hour difference between our countries.
Yes. So, which actually helps me normally because.
Yeah, that's true. It helps. Yeah, but helps me too because then I can do later. Yeah. That's fair.
All right. The 4-3 Chicago Bears, who suffered a pretty bad loss the other day at I forget who they lost to. Oh yeah, it was the
Ravens. The Ravens.
yeah, the Ravens. Yeah.
Yeah, they won 4 in a row and lost to the Ravens, but it wasn't Baltimore. But yeah, give me Chicago. I mean, the Bengals are on the tank mode, and Zach Taylor is going to be fired after the season.
Yeah, give me Chicago. You have the Minnesota Vikings with a bizarro quarterback controversy because Carson Wentz is hurt and sucks, and like, should they put back in JJ McCarthy? Going to 5-2 Detroit, who just re-signed to Aiden Hutchinson to a 4-year, $180 million contract. Give me Detroit.
Give me Detroit too.
All right, we have the 4-4 Carolina Panthers, who are desperately awaiting the return of Bryce Young, because with Andy Dalton, they just don't have much of a prayer.
Andy Dalton, he's still around?
Yeah, and it's bad. It's so bad with the Panthers. They lost 40-9 to the Bills. Going to the 5-1-1 Green Bay Packers. This will be a demolition in Lambeau. Give me the Packs.
Give the Packers, but out of curiosity, the spread is -13.5. Over or under?
Give me over. I think Green Bay covers.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. We have the 3-4 Falcons with Kirk Cousins did not work out this past week in lieu of Michael Penix Jr.
Did not work out at all. Not only last week. Like, I saw a post, I think from Fox Sports, say where he's gonna go next, like to his couch, to commenting, back to the Vikings, to the Browns, to the UFL, because the Atlanta experiment did not work out.
Yeah, it definitely did not work. So I think New England will win at home. And Mike Vrabel will be 7-2. Do you hear that, Amy Adams Strunk? Mike Vrabel is about to be 7-2.
I guess you need to speak louder so she can hear it out in Nashville.
Yeah, well, she probably needs me to scream out it louder because she's probably at Tootsie's right now.
Yeah, and Vrabel inherited the same amount of issues, not more, because the Patriots look like utterly lost, and Vrabel fixed in an off season.
Yeah, but it wasn't good enough for the Tennessee Titans, though.
Yeah, give me
that. Yeah, that won 3 games.
Yeah, give me the
Patriots. He won 4 games. All right, we have the San Francisco 49ers 5-3 going to the 2-6 New York Giants.
Oh, 49ers.
I'm going to go Niners as well. It feels like after the Scatterboo injury, the Giants have probably peaked for the season. Yeah. Although I still like Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart's going to have a good game, but without Scatterboo, yeah, I don't see them, winning.
All right. I think this is probably the best game at 1 p.m. here. You have the 7-1 Colts go into Pittsburgh, the 4-3 Steelers.
Which had a really good game against the Packers, just the defense couldn't hold out. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers doing decent for a 41-year-old quarterback, but give me the Steelers.
I'm going to take the Colts. The Pittsburgh defense is not very good, and the Colts are going to go in there, and I think they're going to run up and down the field. I mean, Jonathan Taylor right now should be the MVP. He has 14 touchdowns. He has 4 games of free plus touchdowns. I mean, what he's doing this year is ridiculous.
And you brought up a good point. Do you think this season is going to be a non-quarterback MVP wins? Because I don't see a quarterback standing out that much.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan Taylor should win it this year. I mean, that's your non-quarterback that's standing out. I mean, he's just insane this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable. Like, Indianapolis is certainly the story of the season because I don't think anyone saw them being 7-1. Not even my friends who are Colts fans thought they would be this good. I mean, it's really remarkable.
But what I like the Jim Irsay's daughter is doing, I think it's fantastic. As an owner, I bet, and you can tell this better, you wish Amy was kind of like Jim Irsay's daughter, be involved in the sideline.
Catherine's her name. Yeah. She you tell she knows what she's doing because she has studied it. She has
No,
watched
no,
her mother. She has
and
been on.
and and she has a characteristic of, I want to be involved and learn the game, because if I'm an owner of something, I need to go deep into the operations and be on the sideline. And she's humble enough to be like, I'm understanding week by week.
Yeah. And you gotta be and you gotta feel good for like guys like Chris Ballard too, because I think Chris Ballard, there was I remember talking with Jason in the offseason about how like the Colts should probably fire him at the end of the season. But like this, I mean, the Daniel Jones move has saved his job.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to re-sign him after the year. I mean, this is basically their Ryan Tannehill moment with Daniel Jones. Like, it really is insane. Now, the question is, are they going to be able to do this in the postseason? And that's the great question. We're not going to know that for 2 months. But hey, if you're a Colts fan, you just got to keep on enjoying the season because it's a magical one for Indianapolis. It's almost like 2022 Tennessee almost, but NFL version.
I mean, they're currently but I compare to the 2021 Titans because they're currently the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Right.
So
I don't think anyone would have them as the favorites over the Chiefs and the Bills,
Yeah.
All right. Another, I think, really good game here, actually. At the 6-2 Broncos, at the 3-4 Texans. The Texans are actually favored in this game by a point and a half.
I mean, because Broncos have been inconsistent outside of Denver and Texas, in those past few games, has won 3 out of the last 4, so, but I still take Bo Nix and Broncos.
I'll take Houston at home, actually. I'll take Houston to get back to 500. It feels like they're starting to oil up. Now, the problem for Houston is you are 4 games behind Indianapolis in the AFC South, so you're probably going to have to angle for a wild card spot. And just kind of thinking about like the playoff situation right now, Houston is about a game and a half behind the Chiefs for that last spot. So Houston's got some work to do. But they're certainly going to be in the running potentially for that spot. Now, the next game up that we have is the Jaguars, who are currently in the 8th seed right now in the AFC. They'd be the first team left out of the playoffs going to the Raiders.
Jaguars.
I'll take the Jaguars as well. Brock Bowers should be back this week. We have the 1-7 Saints at the 5-2 Rams.
Oh, Rams, no doubt about it.
Rams. Tyler Shuck will be the starting quarterback for New Orleans this week. All right. The big one here. The Kansas City Chiefs.
The game of the week.
Yeah, at the Buffalo Bills. As I like to say, anytime this game comes up in the regular season, does the calendar say it's January? If it doesn't, pick the Buffalo Bills. If it's January, pick the Kansas City Chiefs.
But do you know what is interesting about this game? For both, there's a little bit of a playoff implication because both are not leading their division. So they're fighting for a playoff wild card spot right now. Mm-hmm. And right now, the Bills are the 5th seed and KC is the 7th seed.
Yeah. So, man, it's big. So, hey, the Chiefs might win. I mean, and the Chiefs are playing really well right now. They've gotten it together. Patrick Mahomes is definitely reasserting himself as the best quarterback in the league right now.
I mean, they won 5 out of their last 6 games, and the game they lost was on the road on a fluke against the Jaguars.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be a really good game, but it's not January, so the Buffalo Bills can actually win this one.
Yeah, I agree. Give me Buffalo.
And then at night here, you have the Seattle Seahawks at the Washington Commanders. Unquestionable whether or not we'll have Jayden Daniels here.
Give me Seahawks.
I'll
They're
take the
undefeated on the
Seahawks.
road.
Yeah, and for Washington this year has been derailed by injuries, unfortunately. Then Monday Night Football, you have the 2-5 Cardinals versus the 3-4-1 Cowboys. I don't know why this is prime time.
First and foremost, I'll definitely let my brother know. It's $16 to go to this game. I mean, I'll take it.
I mean, any team that loses to the Tennessee Titans should not be on prime time.
Do you think it should be a rule?
Yeah, like the Arizona Cardinals should be banned from prime time for a year because they managed to lose to the Tennessee Titans.
So I guess the Cowboys are not going to do the same. Give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys will, easy. Yeah, I can't believe that's the Monday night game. That's terrible.
I mean, Cowboys are the Cowboys. They're a big brand, and they're still fighting for the wild card. If you think about it, they're the 10th seed. So I guess they're still on a hunt. So that's why this game is a little bit important if you consider.
Right. So like Chicago right now would be the first team out in the NFC.
Yeah, so the Dallas definitely are really close second.
Right. So right now the playoff games, if they were today, would be Chiefs at Patriots, which, hey, that's harkening back to the early days of Patrick Mahomes. You'd have the Chargers with the Broncos, an AFC West battle. You'd have the Bills at the Steelers, which we've seen several times throughout the past couple of years. Then in the NFC, you would have the 49ers at the Eagles, the Rams at the Bucks, which is a rematch of that classic that we had from Brady's championship year down in Tampa, and then the Lions at the Seahawks. So this would all be very fascinating games.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be played, but yeah, it's good to watch out for those spots.
Yeah. All right, and my very last thing for American sports is this week is the final race of the NASCAR season. We have the championship race. We have William Byron won the race this past week at Martinsville to get himself in. Kyle Larson got the last spot, so you're going to have Byron Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Briscoe will be your final four drivers that can win a championship. Still a stupid format, but yeah, hopefully this will soon be going away. We'll go back to a season-long point standings, but as it stands, for me, my pick to win the championship this week in Phoenix, I think it is time. Denny Hamlin, I think, is finally going to win himself a championship this year. So that to me, yeah.
There's another topic, American topic, before we go to Brazil.
Yeah, what is it?
Oh, the MLS playoffs started this week.
See, I forget the MLS exists because they're not on television.
I know, right? I mean, that Apple deal, that's why, I didn't like him. And
I'm not going to lie, I've not watched a second of MLS this year.
No, it's fair. So, but yeah, I guess I can say your Nashville SC. I guess if you have pick a team, you go for the Tennessee one. So Nashville SC was finished the regular season at 6, and they're currently facing Miami. Miami won game 1, 3-1 at home. Guess who scored twice? Guess who? Lionel Messi made a difference. 3-1. Now,
well, I did have a friend say that he did get to see Miami at Nashville recently. I got to see Messi score a hat trick, which was insane.
Yeah, that was back in October. The October regular season, 5-2, and it was also a playoff rematch that you covered. Remember?
Yes.
Remember back in November 2021, the game I did
not realize San Diego had a team now.
Yeah, they do. So game 2 is Saturday in Nashville. So if Nashville wins, they're gonna go to Game 3, which is in Miami on the other Saturday. If Miami wins, then Miami close out the series. And whoever wins this game is gonna face the winner of the Ohio Derby between the FC Cincinnati, and the Columbus, the Columbus Crew. So
Okay, I don't understand. Why is this a best of 3? That doesn't make any sense for soccer.
it makes a little. It makes a little. I think it makes a little because I like the system of best of 3, because then you reward the best seed to finish at home, but at least you don't give only 2 games. I like the Brazilian system better, which was the lower seed only had the opener of the series at home, and then the higher seed had 2 consecutive home games to finish up, rewarding a good regular season. But yeah,
I know there's one game ongoing right now. It's LAFC at Austin. It's 1-0 LA at half. And of course, to watch it, you have to subscribe to MLS Season Pass.
so stupid.
Well, $14.99 a month to watch the MLS. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to pay that as someone who's not a hardcore fan. Like, I'm not going.
Like the MLS really has to think about, they want to be a really niche of a niche. Like, hey, if you like MLS, you're all in, but you're pulling more and more apart the casual fan that is going to tune up to a ESPN or to a Fox Sports to watch a game, which is stupid.
Right. Because I just don't want to outrighly dismiss MLS, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it. Like you've got to make the sport more accessible.
Definitely 100%. So MLS playoffs ongoing. Also USL Championship playoff ongoing as well. And congratulations to the One Knox, because they let me get this straight, but I believe that they won the regular season. All right. Let me check. But yeah. Oh, it's opening up. Yeah, One Knox won the standings. They finished first in the regular season. Chattanooga Red Wolves finished second. So it was a close Tennessee battle. But yeah, One Knox finished first in the regular season, winning the regular season trophy.
Yes.
And
so
now
the Red Wolves play the Portland
Hearts, and One Knox face Charlotte Independence.
Okay, so it's Saturday night at 7, so I'm not going to miss Tennessee, Oklahoma to go watch the Red Wolves play. Although I was kind of considering it, but
But if it's Chattanooga versus One Knox, then it will be really cool.
It would be, yes, because would that game be? I guess that game would be in Knoxville.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it would be in Knoxville, in a really brand new, beautiful stadium. Hopefully, one day I can make it. But sadly, our team in the USL Championship did not make it. The Indy 11 eliminated on the most heartbreaking way possible, losing 2-0 to Orange County. That was heartbreaking.
It was. Had their chances at the end, just couldn't get it done, and then Orange County broke their hearts right at the end. So it just is what it is there. And I know that they have some stuff they have to fix this offseason, and hopefully they can come back next year and be stronger. Also, Chattanooga FC, they lost in the MLS Next Pro playoffs to Huntsville City 2-0 as well. So, last soccer playoffs ongoing.
Yeah, and speaking of playoffs, down here in Brazil, Libertadores, I was just, updating on our podcast. Flamengo survived Really tough battle down in Argentina. 0-0, Racing Flamengo. Flamengo won game 1-0 in Maracanã. So they're going back to the Libertadores finals. They won twice in the last 5 years, 2019 and 2022, but it hasn't been back to the Libertadores finals since. But yeah, I think they deserve it. They were very much focused on defense on this game. Not surprising. Hasi had to attack at all times because they were in the disadvantage. I felt there were a lot of disorganized. The last play where the goalkeeper went on the penalty area on the corner and they passed instead of crossing, that defined everything. It was a lot of disorganized pressure. Flamengo had chances to win even. They missed some opportunities, but they got it done. 0-0, went back to Libertadores final, and they're going to wait for tomorrow game to see who are going to face in the finals. Palmeiras has a really, 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 really hard mission. They're down 3-0. They lost in game 1 in Quito, Ecuador to the Liga Desportiva Universitaria. I don't know. I don't see this Palmeiras team. I talked on the radio. Palmeiras has been really struggling to overcome those, deficits. They didn't overcome against Corinthians twice this season, and they were way lower disadvantage. In Brazilian Cup, they lost 2-0. They couldn't get it done. They lost 1-0 at home in game 1, and they couldn't get it done in game 2 on the road. And also, I think LDU, which is coached by a Brazilian, Thiago Nunes, I think he's a really well coached team. I think Palmeiras is gonna win, but it's gonna be like 2-0. They're not gonna even make 2 penalties. Do you think Palmeiras can overcome a 3-0 deficit?
No, that's a lot to overcome.
So it's gonna be Flamengo LDU in Peru, in Lima, the final in next month in November. The Brazilian Championship, week 30, Palmeiras, really tough game against Cruzeiro at home, 0-0, got the win, got the draw, but Flamengo lost to Fortaleza, so Palmeiras is the number 1 team right now, isolated. Flamengo second, Cruzeiro third, and guess who is the 4th best team in Brazil right now? The Cinderella story. Mirassol, the Cinderella story that never ends. They got another win, 4 wins in a row. They will currently play in not in the pre-stage. They're gonna go straight to the group stage in Libertadores, which is insane. 10 years ago, they were playing with Rio Branco in the same division, the state, in the second division, A2. And they're now the 4th best team in Brazil. Insane. I've been loving that story. Down in the relegation zone, Santos had a good draw against Botafogo, but got us some win, but got some help with the arch rival because Corinthians beat Vitória on the road 1-0, and that kept Santos out of the relegation zone. But they pretty much have a final this weekend. They're gonna play Fortaleza at home on Saturday. It's a do or die game because if they win, they're gonna pretty much relegate one of those Fortaleza. But if they lose, Fortaleza is going to be only 2 points behind them. So it's one of those games that you have to win to just pretty much eliminate a team that you're fighting the relegation.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go for the kill shot.
Yeah, the kill shot. And probably Neymar is not going to be back. Probably only be back against Flamengo on November 9. So, yeah, also Red Bull Bragantino, full crisis, 3rd straight loss against Vasco, and they fired their coach, Fernando Seabra. And Jurgen Klopp, he's the head of the soccer department for Red Bull worldwide.
Yeah.
So I guess he had some participation hiring the coach. I thought he was gonna go outside of the box, try to get like an upper coming coach. For example, Fernando Marchiotti, who's been doing fantastic in Primavera, promoted them to the first division, the state of Sao Paulo, was the runner up in the Paulista Cup. But no, they hired everybody expected Wagner Mancini, which he's used to kind of coach those middle tier teams. And I mean, I don't know what to make of Red Bull Bragantino, because at the beginning of the Brazilian Championship, I thought they're going to fight for a title, at least in the top four, but they've fallen off so badly after the stop of the FIFA Club World Cup. They're 12th place, only 5 points ahead of the relegation zone. So I guess they're gonna at least want to stay in the first division, maybe make to the Copa Sudamericana, spot. But it's very disappointing for a team that is investing a lot. If you compare Red Bull Bragantino's budget to Mirassol budget, it's really, there's a difference. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, and if you saw me reacting, I was watching the end of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Austin Reeves just hit a buzzer beater floater to win 116-115. Now, to qualify this game, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, nor Anthony Edwards played in this game between the Lakers and the Timberwolves. So if you got to ask, why is the NBA having a ratings problem and, image problem? Well, you have a game here on national television where none of your free superstars in this game are playing. But hey, still got a good finish here. Austin Reeves with the game winner. Dalton Connect had like 37 minutes tonight too and dropped 15 points.
Also, my last topic. That's true, Jason. Shout out to Stevo, first start today and score a beauty of a finish. I don't want to call him a baby Ronaldinho, maybe a baby Robinho. Like, he has a lot of ability. He's more like a side winger. But yeah, he's special. And also shout out Andre Santos too, score at the 5th minute. So Brazilians carry out the win of Chelsea against Wolverhampton in the not the FA Cup.
Right. Or is it a Premier League game or was it a cup game?
No, it's the other cup.
Oh no, it's Carabao
Cup. Carabao Cup against Vitor Pereira. Remember him, Vitor Pereira?
Oh, is he at Wolverhampton now?
Yeah, he's at Wolverhampton. You remember him?
Yes.
My mother-in-law is sick. I need to leave Corinthians. Bam.
But did Wolverhampton get I see Wolves are currently in last place in EPL. So
Vitor Pereira, I guess. So probably Vitor Pereira's mother-in-law is going to be sick really soon if things doesn't turn around for the Wolverhampton. It's going to be an ongoing joke for Vitor Pereira here, at least with Corinthians fans. But shout out, Estevão and Andre. They're really getting connected and doing good down in Chelsea, which is good for the Brazil national team, who really needs both of them to be good for next year's World Cup.
Absolutely. That just keeps inching closer and closer and closer. But and also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but the Blue Jays did win. So now they're up 3-2. So they will have 2 chances at home to win a World Series. So I think that is all the time we have tonight for Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports, the only American and Brazilian sports championship. By the time we come back, we'll have fallen back. We'll have a World Series champion, and we'll have more as we head into November as 2025 begins to wind on down. For Gus Amazelli in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nick Hill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in these United States. Thank you so much for watching Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. Have a great